Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin in Tucson, Arizona. Thanks for being here today. As always, like, share, subscribe, do the algorithm stuff, and let's talk about what you're talking about. First of all, some coin show news. I will be at the Indiana Coin Show the weekend before Thanksgiving, so that's going to be November 21 and 22 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Myself and Trace, I'm like looking over here as though Trace is right next to me and going to come on screen right now. But we're going to be at the show in November. Excited to see as many of you there as possible. If you are anywhere in the tri-state area, Dr. Doofenshmirtz would like to see you. All right, also, if you're coming to the Tucson Coin Show, we do have room rates. The show is January 16th and 17th in Tucson at the Casino del Sol. If you go to casinodelsol.com, you do not click directly on the reservations button. You actually hit the groups and meetings and then go to reservation. It's a little tricky. You can always call down there and tell them you're calling about the Tucson Coin Invitational. But our room code is 10197. That's 10197. And it's going to be a good time. If you stay, they have two hotel towers. The Estrella Tower is newer. It's at the far end of campus. The Casino Tower is like right above the convention center area. All right. That Winston double. Here we go. What? Huh? How is the reverse and the obverse just because that's where the date is? That isn't even standard for U.S. coinage. State and America the Beautiful quarters have it on the reverse. All right, so this one's a little interesting because there is not a standard from country to country where what the obverse and reverse of the coin is. So the obverse of the coin is considered the front of the coin. The reverse of the coin is considered the back of the coin. In note collecting terms, they actually use the term front and back. In coins, they use obverse and reverse. So obverse would be the front, reverse would be the back. Now this is tricky because that is U.S. standard, and that has been the U.S. standard. But of course now there are coins with dates on the rim. So what are we doing with that? Anyone? Bueller? Like, so different countries have different standards of what they consider to be the obverse and reverse. I tried to find it in the Red Book. Gonna have to do a little bit more research as to where and when the syndicate standard was put into place, that the obverse is the date side of the coin. There are plenty of coins where you would assume that it's the date side when it is not. Most famously for myself, the Mexican Libertad has the side that I think should be the obverse, and it is not. It is the crest side, not the winged Liberty side. So, you know, yes, there is a standard. It's always been the dated side for U.S. coins. And I don't know what to do with it on modern coins where they're moving the date around a lot more. So, yeah, fire away. If someone has some more information for me, please let me know. Next up, we've got, let's see, Westbridge Coin. Hey, Ben, have you considered selling on Whatnot or L5? I don't know what L5 is, to be honest. And for those of you who don't know what Whatnot is a selling app where they do live stream sales. It's apparently a good place to cherry pick things, which also makes me not really that intrigued or interested in selling things there. But on the other hand, I've got a lot of people who have told me the same thing, which is, hey, you should be on Whatnot because stuff sells for too much. And what they mean by that is they mean low-end stuff, right? So if you're taking your silver certificates that you normally sell in the store for $2, and all of a sudden you got people paying $3 or $4 each for them, bada bing, bada boom, right? And it's a beautiful thing. But here's the thing with Whatnot, it's a time suck, right? So if you want to sell 50 or 100 items, you're spending several hours doing a live stream. And then if you sell 100 items, now you've got to spend how long packaging 100 items? Let's assume that they're not all to the same person. Let's say let's assume they're not all to individual lots. Maybe you only have to pack 75, but still, if it takes you a few minutes, I mean, pretty much that turns into a half day to an all day event, just packaging. Right, and so part of the process for me is, one, having the time to be able to sell on a platform like that. By the way, for those of you who are on eBay and don't know about Whatnot, eBay now does eBay Live. This is in response to Whatnot. That's kind of how popular Whatnot has become over the last couple of years. So looking at whether or not to use Whatnot is kind of a tricky proposition for me because I see the value in having that platform because it does sell a lot of stuff. But at the same time, there's the labor balance. So for those of you who don't have a brick and mortar store, this makes a lot of sense. My thing when you have a store is trying to balance out that whole time, value, price, labor thing equation. And it's not always that easy. So if you sell all these items, and let's just use fictional numbers. Let's say you sell $20,000 worth of items. Cash flow, great. Cash flow is always needed in this industry, right? So, but on the other side of that, how much would you have been able to get for that same stuff if it was one big packaged group and you were just like wholesaling it out to somebody? Does that make sense? So maybe you spend an extra day of selling and a day of packaging to get that revenue in, right? But then at the other end of it, are you actually making a good business decision if you're using all that labor to counterbalance something that you actually would have been able to sell? It's not like you're selling $20,000 worth of stuff and you had $0 otherwise. It's not like it was worth nothing before. So having said that, as of right now, I'm not on Whatnot. Definitely, I've considered it, but for me, I probably will end up doing something adjunct if I do anything. I have a couple of friends in the business who basically have had a young person come in and sell everything for them on Whatnot that they didn't want to deal with and give them a commission or a percentage. And you'll see that some people do things of that nature. So as of now, I don't plan on doing it. My time is pretty thin for me to physically do it myself anyway. And I don't know that it's necessary. And it's the type of thing where it's a place where you can sell off stuff that's more low end, but it's a lot of work to sell a lot of cheaper stuff. And anything about this marketplace really from the business side becomes labor. And that's something that's often lost in the sauce, is that people think about dollar numbers, just $100, $80, what's your percentage? It's like, well, okay, how long is it going to take me to sell that item? How long is it going to sit on my wall? That's the type of thing that if you actually have a business, you have to consider. All right, there's a lot of discussion around this whole heritage versus great collections thing. First up, a comment saying, let me see here. Let me see. No. What does this say? Newsy no more. Two things. First, too short of a list for your poll, because I was asking specifically about heritage or great collections. What is DLRC? Chopped liver? I have no connection to the firm. Second, absolutely use great collections if you want a disappointing return. So interesting comments here. DLRC is David Lawrence Rare Coin. So just to answer this question, I've had exactly 0 consumers come in my doors asking me about DLRC. So I wouldn't say that they're chopped liver, but I would say that depending on where you live, they may be known or not known, right? So people in Tucson, probably most of my collectors and consumers don't know who DLRC is any more than if you're in the middle of Iowa, someone's going to necessarily know about the shops around Tucson. It's just not a likely thing, no matter how big they are, right? It's not necessarily a known quantity. Secondly, I didn't know that they did auctions or any type of auction formatted work. I thought they were just a storefront, a large dealer. I didn't know that they did consignment. But I just scoped out their website for 3 seconds and it said consign with us. So consignment may be the way that people are going with a lot of stuff, right? Because, maybe a lot of businesses have realized, well, if I don't have to lay out the money, I can take on a lot more inventory and I don't have the risk. And if we're going to do an auction, I don't even have to commit to a price point, which, by the way, for the consumer is dangerous, which gets to the rest of this comment about if you want disappointing returns, use great collections. I'm fascinated by this because when I was at the Carson City show, there was a dealer, I heard him telling some customers like, oh yeah, everything on there, it sells for 30% over sheet and da-da-da. Listen, auctions sell at all price points. It's the same thing as going back to the Whatnot idea, right? Like people cherry pick Whatnot all the time. Like I've seen guys buy 10-ounce silver bars for $35. It's like that really can happen. Also, I've consigned coins for customers and they went bananas. I mean, they went really, really high, well above anything that I ever would have thought it would have gone for. And then when I consign coins, they go well below. That's actually the standard bearer. No, that's not true. But anyways, so as always, auctions results vary widely. That's what an auction is. And I've bought stuff at auction that I got a great deal on, and then I've had stuff that I wanted, and so I fought for, and so I paid above market. So the real question, I've got like another couple, 2-3 comments here about great collections and heritage. Here is double 1384. What is not addressed here is that the big barrier to consigning to Stacks and Heritage is that you need to have at least $5,000 in coins to consign. The other consideration is that each coin segment probably has its own preferred venue, i.e. classic gold, modern, ancient, etc. So the answer is not the same for every coin. This is a great point. I tried to point that out in the video. There will be certain, the point about the video and the poll is that you literally have different consumers using the different platforms, right? So the guy who's buying on Heritage doesn't even look at Great Collections, doesn't even look at eBay, right? And the eBay buyer, it's like the Whatnot buyer and the eBay buyer and the Heritage buyer and the Great Collections buyer, there may be no overlap. None of us can be everywhere all at once. You know, it's just not a thing, right? So, but there's certain people, they've picked the place they want to go. It's like there's 1,000 restaurants you could go to in town, but you got 5 that you go to, right? It's the same concept here. So, and the barrier to entry, my understanding is that with Heritage and Stacks, you have to have at least a $5,000 commitment for them to come in and take your consignments. And so Great Collections has a lower threshold. David's saying here, I've sold several coins at Great Collections, and as long as they're sold for at least $1,000, I only paid a $10 fee plus postage. How do you beat that? And that's a great comment. Once again, Great Collections to me has like just really streamlined it, made it more consumer friendly for anyone who's selling a smaller amount of coins or less expensive coins. We got another comment here about that. Always Seeking Silver saying, hey Ben, apparently I'm the only of those unicorns that actually shops on both Great Collections and Heritage. As a collector, I like Great Collections over Heritage for at least 3 reasons. First, the buyer premiums and the shipping costs are lower through Great Collections. Second, Great Collections ships the coins out faster. I've never had a winning coin shipped later than a second day after the auction. And third, Great Collection auctions always ends on Sunday. So I can watch how all the coins I'm interested in finish, which never seems to be the case with Heritage. Now that I think about it, I like that Great Collection auctions have a specific end time too. Heritage auctions go in order of listing items, so you never know exactly when the item of interest is going to hit the block. And then if you get outbid when live, you only have about 2 seconds to react. Okay, interesting here. Some other sub-comments. Agree, Great Collection shipping, second to none. Stacks, Bowers, and Heritage has amazing stuff, large swath of interesting material, better descriptions. This is something that should be pointed out. You know, Great Collections is a lot more of like, here's the coin, and there's no description about stuff. And if you're buying something that's a little more esoteric or harder to find or interesting, they spend a lot more time writing up like catalog type descriptions at both those places. And Michael saying, totally agree, Great Collections, fast delivery, less pressure, more time to think and assess before bidding, lower buyer fees too. So many things go into these companies and how they operate and what their business model is. And also for the consumer, what you have to think about and consider. This is something else to consider with the whole conversation about eBay versus Whatnot. If I'm listing stuff on eBay or on my website, it's up there for the consumer to buy at a price point. And if I have an established price point on stuff, why do I have to put it up for auction? And, you know, people, if you're doing like a live Whatnot stream, you have like people have to be watching you at that time. And his point here about Great Collections always closing at the same time. Heritage does something similar with, they have their like Tuesday and Wednesday night auctions and Thursday night auctions. They have like an ancient night, a currency night, a coin night, where lots of times it'll be coins and currency that are under $2,000 type items that they list there. I do think that you have a similar amount of time between auctions. I may be wrong about this, but Heritage, you know, all their items are listed in order. So I'm not exactly sure about that, the comment about, you know, not having time, because to me, it is fast in between items. I will say that, but also I know the order they come up in because they're in order. So, all right, anyways, lots of activity there on the Great Collections versus Heritage versus Whatnot versus David Lawrence Rare Coin versus Old Pueblo Coin, eBay, whatever. Find us here, shop. All right, spend money. All right, one more comment, then we'll be done for the day. Mumkundera, man, this is the guy that does the cooking shows. I love that guy. All right, he's one of the better judges on guy's grocery. Anyways, all right. Love the trade dollar. Is there much demand for those, chopped or not? And do you know of collectors collecting trades by date, mint mark, and proof? Oh man, trade dollars have a sneaky, solid foundation of collectors. Like a lot of people like the trade dollar. I think the trade dollar is one of the coolest coins out there. It's very unique in both its design and what it was actually used for. And so I think that from my perspective, it's not collected anywhere near as much as like Morgan dollars or peace dollars. But also, I have a lot of collectors who are looking for them nice, original, so not cleaned. Some people like them chopped, some not. And I have a couple of collectors that are actually putting proof sets together of those. And it's tough. I mean, obviously, that's a matter of price point. What's the old saying? The difference between the men and the boys is the price of their toys. Well, you know, if you got the money, go for the proofs, man. They're beautiful, beautiful coins. But also, what's fun about the trade dollar is you can buy a lot of them in that nice find a VF grade if you can find them, and there won't be too much money to put together a little mini typeset of them. And if you're doing a typeset of US coins, it's one of the best coins to get into your set. It's just a fun coin to have. All right, guys, as always, like, share, subscribe, leave your comments down below. I'm Ben the Coin Geek, and we will catch you next time. Thanks.